Welcome to your ClassWize user training session. The purpose of this session is to give you an overview of ClassWize, along with a look at many features available to you, as well as some best practices and tips to help you get the most of using ClassWize in your classroom. Whether you're watching this as part of a group or individually, you can pause, review, and reflect as you work through the session. Our objective for this session is for you to feel comfortable and ready to begin your journey using ClassWize. ClassWize is designed to allow you as the user to view student screens and take actions like messaging students or opening websites, all while your students are connected to the internet with their devices. Each time our students connect to the internet, they need us to help facilitate and guide them while using it. We can set the expectations of their use of the internet by using ClassWize. There's a great importance for us to set those expectations so they can use the internet safely and efficiently. Today we'll spend about 35 minutes walking through everything from logging in to logging out and all the different features and actions that you can do with ClassWize. ClassWize really enables us to set and maintain expectations for the use of the internet in our classrooms. We are able to create a really good container for learning because ClassWize supports us to do three things really well. First, it helps us manage distractions in our classroom. For example, we can focus students only on the sites we want students to be on while blocking access to other sites. Second, ClassWize empowers us as educators to take action using features such as opening websites or messaging our students one-on-one. And finally, ClassWize gives us access to students' internet use data. For example, a screenshot history report that shows the activity including date and time, as well as screenshots of those sites they are visiting. Think of ClassWize as your co-teacher, assisting you in managing your digital classroom. I'm going to share my demonstration environment with you now, and let's begin our walk through ClassWize. On the screen in front of you is the Teacher ClassWize sign-in screen. You'll be given a unique URL from your district that will bring you directly to this page. This one happens to have a drop-down with schools and districts you would choose from first. Then you would sign on with your school credentials. Or you may see a single sign-on with Google or Microsoft. On the student's end, the students are going to log on to their device with their school credentials just like normal. They're accessing the internet. They're not logging into ClassWize intentionally. So there'll be nothing that pops up on their screen that says they're connected to ClassWize. ClassWize is already installed on their devices, so you'll be able to see your students' screens and take actions with them during your class period. After signing in, you're going to be taken to the ClassWize dashboard. On the dashboard, you may see pre-configured classes. Those are classes that are synced in from your student information system. On the top left of the tiles, you'll see the names of the classes, and on the right middle, you'll see the name of the system that's bringing that information over for those pre-configured classes. Here's an example of a Google Group pre-configured class. But I also have local classrooms. These are ad hoc classrooms that I create within my local dashboard. Reasons you may add ad hoc classes. Maybe you want to create groups of students taking a large class size and creating small groups where you can do a different focus session for each of those groups. Maybe you are doing a special project with a group of students, or maybe you need to proctor a makeup exam with different students from different classes. Another type of an ad hoc class is a monitor-only class. If you're given permission to do so, this may be a counselor or an administrator. You can create a class of students that you just need to simply watch or monitor their activity throughout the school day. Creating classes. Let's learn how to create a local monitor-only class and a local teaching class. To create a local classroom on your dashboard, you'll look to the right-hand side of your screen where it says Add Class. Once you click the Add Class button, a pop-up window will appear. First, you want to add a unique class name here. If given permission, you'll see the two options, a teaching class or a monitor-only class. If the monitor-only class is not there, it will default to a teaching class, and the teaching class is where you'll have actions that you will take with your students. When you create a teaching class, you'll also have the option to use an invitation code. This is an alphanumeric code that expires in an hour to be given to any student who has entered your class but not quite rostered in the system and hasn't synced into ClassWize. Although rare, it's good to know it's there. Click Save, and you now have a new tile on your dashboard for that local class. Now we need to add students to the class. Click on the little gear in the bottom right-hand corner. The first tab is to add or remove students from this class. You can search by student name under class membership. To remove students, you can click the X on the right-hand side. The next tab over is to add a co-teacher to your ad hoc class. As long as the person is grouped on the back end as a teacher, you can add them here. Once you click Save, the class will appear on their own dashboard. The next tab is the Scheduling tab. This is to add a hard set schedule for ClassWize to start and stop on specific days of the week. If this is available in your ClassWize setting, we recommend that you only use this if you have a very static schedule. If your schedule has fluctuations, you would want to use the manual start and stop. The reason why is when I create this schedule in the system, I'm actually hardwiring it with day and start time. I don't want to create any overlap with other classes in the system. That would create conflicts with the rules and actions that I take with my students, which we'll learn about shortly. And on the very right, you'll have your invitation code again if that's needed for your class. Click Save to save those settings for that local classroom. In the settings for a pre-configured class, you won't have the option to add or remove students or teachers, but you may see the scheduling feature there as well. For a monitor-only class, you simply need to add or remove students from that group. Multiple people can be monitoring that same student because they're only observing that student's online activity and they're not taking any actions with the students. A great feature of ClassWize is the ability to rename, pin, and hide classes. With the pin in the upper right corner of the tile, you can move your daily or semester classes to the top of your dashboard. You can also collapse the rest of your classes for a cleaner view. Names of pre-configured classes will be names from the student information system. With the Edit button on the bottom corner of the tile next to the Settings option, this will allow you to change the names of the classes without disrupting the syncing process. This creates more efficiency and ease of use of ClassWize. Let's take a look at a monitor-only class. To begin, select the class. Then, up on the left-hand corner, you're going to see a green button, Start Monitoring. You're going to be asked to select an end time for this monitoring session. This will ensure that ClassWize monitoring will end at that specific time. Click Start to begin the class. At the top, you'll see a banner across the screen letting you know you're in monitor-only mode. You'll see the student tiles of the students that you have in the class, and then you have two options for viewing. You have the screen view and the list view. On the screen view, you'll see a screenshot updated about every 10 seconds. And the list view for students on Chromebooks, you will see a list of the tabs the student has open on their device. The Monitoring Until button will allow you to add extra time if needed or to end the session early. And over to the right, you'll see some icons to change the student tile size depending on the amount of students in your class or what view you prefer. Let's head over to a student tile now. At the top of the student tiles, you'll see the names of your students. In the center, you're going to see a view of your student screen. And then at the bottom of the tile, you're going to see a little gray Chrome icon if your students are on Chromebooks. Click the icon, and you'll see a list of the open tabs the student has open on their device. Another view that you have is to click on the student tile to bring up the live view of the screen. This is going to allow you to see the navigation that the student is currently doing on their device. You can click on full screen to bring it up into a fuller screen mode, and you can also download a screenshot of the screen. It downloads as a PDF to your local computer, and it gives you the option to visit the site with a live URL at the top, as well as a timestamp and the information you would need for your records at the bottom. Back at the live view at the very top, you'll also be able to see the different tabs the student has open on that device if they're using a Chromebook. And it allows you to view the screens of the students' tabs that they have open beyond the active tab. The other capability that you would have as a monitor-only user, you'll be able to access the reports, which we'll discuss when we look at the teaching class, and you can modify students, meaning you can remove and add students within the class dashboard. To end the class before the time is run out, simply click on Monitor Until and End Now. Let's head into a teaching class where we can take actions with our students to help them stay focused and on task. First, select the class. Once you're on the class dashboard, you can start the class. To start the class, it's required that you have an end time for that class session. This is important to be accurate. The reason I do this is because I set a time that's not accurate and I don't manually stop a class. The rules that I created for this class will carry forward to their next classroom. So setting this time accurately will ensure that my ClassWize class will stop at the end of class period, and I can stand by the door and say goodbye to my students without worrying about ClassWize still running as they move on. Once the class starts, you'll see all your students represented by student tiles on the dashboard. You'll see the screenshots that are updating every 10 seconds. And up to the left, you have your two different views, the screen view and the list view, which will list all the tabs that the student has open on those Chromebook devices. It will also give you some X's, so you can close those tabs as well. Next to that, we have our Class Until button, which again, you can extend the time if needed, or end the class early with the End Now button. At the very top left in the blue bar, you're going to see the name of your class. Over to the right, under these 4 buttons, you see some options to resize your tiles, either smaller or bigger, depending on your class size. Let's take a look at the student tiles and the actions you can take for individual students. This includes chat, announcement, open site, pause internet, and live view. Now let's look at the actions we can take from an individual student tile. Let's pretend our demo student here has entered the class, but they're not quite ready to get started. What can we do? We have 4 options here at the top. The first one is to initiate a chat with the student. Chat is available when students are on Chromebooks, and it's a two-way communication between teacher and student. As a teacher, I can decide when I want to enable chat for that particular class period. To do so, I would come over to this chat button here on the very right, click and enable the chat on. Once chat is enabled, students will see an icon at the bottom of their screen. I can click on the chat icon on the tile and send that message off to the student. The student then can click on the icon and respond. If the student wants to initiate the chat with me, they can do so as well. It can allow students to ask you questions that they normally wouldn't want to ask in front of their peers. If and when I want to disable chat for that particular class period, I would do so here, and the students would no longer see the chat icon in the corner of their screen. The next icon on the student tile is the announcement feature. Maybe I just want to send a one-way message to the student. Maybe it's a redirection, a reminder, or simply a message that just helps them move forward with their learning. When you click send, they will see a message appear at the top of their screen. The next action is the Open Site option. This allows you to push a site to open as a new tab on the student's device. This is a very efficient way to get students started on their work, as well as helpful for students that can't quite navigate the keyboard as efficiently as others. The last option is to pause the internet. The Pause Internet button is going to pause the internet, and their Chromebook tabs are going to close. I can apply it to all students from one specific student tile, or I can pause for one or more students. When I click pause, the student will leave the spot in the class that they normally are in and move to that front spot. The reason is we don't want to forget the student is paused. We want them to be connected and doing their job. This is allowing me some time to have that teachable moment with Julie to redirect and then reconnect. I can do so from her tile or from the pause button up here on the bar. Once I end the pause, she'll move back to her place in the class and her tabs are going to reopen and she can get started back to work. Let's take a look at Live View. When we click on a student's tile, it will bring up the live view of the student's screen. It'll start with the active tab, but you'll notice the other tabs in the background when the students are on Chromebooks. It also allows me to take a look at those tabs and close any that I don't think the student should be on at this time. It'll send them a message that I have to close the tab on their device. Another great feature of Live View is the ability to click on a live URL, that will open the site as a new tab on your device, so you can take a closer look at what the student is viewing on their device. I also have a full screen option down here at the bottom right-hand side. This gives you an opportunity to project a student's work on a bigger screen for all students to view. We also have the screenshot option. Remember, it does download a PDF to your local computer. Next, we have the option to create a rule. There are 3 places you can create a rule in ClassWize. Creating a rule is going to block the student from a site that the student is currently on. I can block it for a single student or for the whole class. Right now, the student's on code.org. Maybe in this case, I've asked the student not to navigate to code.org, but they keep making that choice. So I'm going to go ahead and block it for the student. What this means is I'm going to add a rule. It's going to live in my rule set. The tab will close on the student device, and they'll get a message that the tab has been closed because the teacher blocked it. The other actions you can take within the live screen, you can open a site, and you can also initiate that chat here as well. At the bottom of the student tiles, when the students are on Chromebooks, you're going to notice this little gray icon. When you click on that icon, you will see the list of tabs the student has open, as well as some X's to close those tabs if needed. You also have the option to create a rule, again blocking the student from a specific site that you need to block them from. If students are on Windows devices, you'll see the name at the top of the tile of that user. You're going to also see the entire desktop of the Windows user on the screen. Now we head to ClassTools, where we will find actions to take with the entire class. The drop-down includes Open Site, Announcement, Focus, Reward, Pause Internet, and Modify Students. The ClassTools drop-down on the top right of your dashboard is a list of actions that you can take with your entire class. Open Site under ClassTools allows you to push a site to the entire class. This can be an efficient way to get the whole class to the same spot at the same time. Our Open Site feature has an amazing YouTube option for you to share specific YouTube videos while eliminating the comments and distractions that YouTube videos typically bring, as well as giving us a safe way to share those YouTube videos with our students. When you push a YouTube video out by the Open Site option, your students aren't able to minimize the screen. They'll be able to view the video, they'll be able to put it in full screen mode, but they won't be able to see the comments or extra distractions that can bring their attention away from the task at hand. The next action is the announcement feature. You can send an announcement to your entire class as a gray banner that will appear across their Chromebook screen. You can let students know how much time is left in an exam or what next steps they need to take for their classwork. Our Focus feature is a great way to set expectations for your students to stay on the sites that you need them to be on to do their classwork. To start a focus session, you begin by adding sites here that you want your students to have access to while blocking access to other sites. You can find the site on this preset list, or if you don't see what you need, you can add the specific URL into the box here. When you start the focus, it will open the sites on their device as new tabs. Here is a view of the focus session from a student Chromebook. As you see here, the student's current tabs close, and the focus sites will open in new tabs for the student. During a focus session, if the student tries to type something within the URL bar, they're going to get a content blocked page. And if the student opens a new tab, wherever they try to navigate to, they will be blocked as well. If you'd like to add a site or take a site off of that list, you just click on the Classes Focus button, and you can add or remove sites, and then click Save, or end the focus here as well. And the last thing to note about Focus is the ability to focus your class on a specific YouTube video. If your school gives you and your students access to YouTube, you can place a specific URL into the focus session here. Choose the website below, and once you start the focus, it's going to open on the student's device in a new tab. It's also going to open in that full screen mode, so you're eliminating those distractions, access to inappropriate comments, and commercials. Next on the class tool list is the reward feature. Now, a reward feature works if you're using our line-wise content filter. If your district is blocking certain sites from students, but leaving them unlocked for you as teachers to use in your class, you can set a reward, a duration of time, for the students to use that particular site. For example, maybe Cool Math Games is something that's blocked for your students, but left unlocked for you as a teacher to use. You can allow your students a duration of time such as 10 minutes to be on that site. It will not open the site like the Focus does, but you can always use our Open Site feature to get them there quicker. Once the 10 minutes is up, it's going to close the site back down, and the students get the content blocked page and won't have any access to the site anymore. The last two options on the class tool list, you can pause the internet for all of your students, and you can modify students if you've created this as an ad hoc class, meaning you can add or remove students here. Let's find out what type of rules you can apply with your students. What are rules and why might we need them? Rules give you the ability to block or allow certain sites for students. The ability to block sites for individual students or your whole class works for any user of ClassWize. Like in the case of the demo student, we had to block the demo student because that student was making the choice to go somewhere that I've asked them not to go. So I blocked them from that site for a time period. Maybe I pull them aside, have a discussion with them, or maybe I need to keep them blocked for a little bit of time. And when they're ready to get reconnected and can make better decisions, I can delete the rule from the rule set here. If your district uses the line-wise content filter, your technology team can set certain sites as blocked for students but left unlocked for teachers to use and allow them in their classes. And the access to these sites would only be allowed during the ClassWize session. Let's take Cool Math Games as an example. When my students enter my class, I have Cool Math Games in the blocked position, meaning they can't access. When I want them to use the site, I can simply toggle to the allowed position. This is going to give them access to Cool Math Games. Once they're given access, they can use that site until I go back into my rule set and I toggle it back to the blocked position. The tab will close and they'll get a message that the tab's been closed because it's been blocked by the teacher. To create a rule, you can click here on New Rule. On the drop-down, you can find the site or a category, or you can put in a specific site. Make sure you click on the website directly below, and then in the case of blocking it or allowing it, you would choose. If you don't have the line-wise content filter, you would not see this allowed option. The rule can apply to the entire class, or you can also select specific students here from the drop-down. Click Add Rule, and now each time my ClassWize class starts, my users are going to be blocked from Learn.com. Once my ClassWize class ends, it will turn off that rule for my students. This is the reason why setting the end time is super important, because you don't want to keep your ClassWize running while students are starting the next class with their teacher. The rules will apply to the students until the ClassWize class ends. A general rule of thumb for your rule list is to keep it manageable, 5 to 7 rules at a time. If this list here gets too long, you won't have as much visibility into the rules that you've set, and you may create some conflicts of your own. For example, you could set a rule 2 weeks ago and then ask the student to access something that they won't be able to access. Keep it manageable for efficiency and ease of use. When needed, to manage your list, you can delete all the rules up here at the top, or you can delete individual rules here with the little icon. Time to take a look at our great reporting options, Screenshot History and Student Journey. ClassWize offers you lots of features and actions to really keep your students on track and to eliminate those distractions. There are going to be times in your class that you may have seen behavior that you're not quite sure of, but you weren't able to check ClassWize in the moment. Don't worry, we've got your back. You can access a screenshot history report right there in the moment. Let's say I'm questioning where my demo student had been earlier in the class period. I can click on Reports and bring up the screenshot history of that student. Choose the student from the drop-down. You'll have a 2-week window to look at the screenshot history reports. I'm just going to select a 2-day window, hit Apply, and then click Search. Anytime my student was connected with ClassWize will appear here. Let's say it was yesterday and I want to take a look at the activity that the student was doing around 1:30. I can look for that time here, the activity, and then over here it tells me the duration of time that student was on that specific site. ClassWize is going to take screenshots every 7 to 10 seconds, so I can click on View. I can take a look at the screenshots that were taken during that time period when the student was connected. It helps me to know if the student was on track with their learning or if I need to step in and have a little chat with the student. I can download these screenshots into a zip file to my local computer and use them when I'm having that conversation with the student. And each time the student jumps from site to site, you're going to see a screenshot for that activity as well. The second report is called the Student Journey. This one extends to the beginning of the school year until the current day. You can select a date range here or customize your range as well. If you want the last hour of activity, it will take about an hour to process, but if you don't need that last hour or you're looking for something more in the past, it'll only take a few minutes to process. You can add a cover page comment, hit export, and it will deliver a PDF to your email. The Student Journey report will come with a cover page, and then it will have a list of activity, starting with the date and the time, and whether it was an allowed activity, the category, activity. It shows blocked activity as well, meaning the student was trying to access sites that are typically blocked in the classroom. If you need to extend the time or end the class early, you can do so by clicking the Class Until button. Ending the class will bring you back to the original dashboard. The dashboard, where we will find Sync, Latest News, Support, the Help section, Send Feedback, and Log Out. Let's go to the upper left. You may see the Sync button. The Sync button will appear if your district has enabled the option for you to manually sync your Google Classrooms. This option is only going to be available for districts who sync with Google Classroom in ClassWize. This allows you to make changes within your Google Classroom, and then you can manually sync in ClassWize, so ClassWize reflects those changes as well. And please note, any synced classes will automatically update as the sync occurs routinely. Up on the very top bar, we have Latest News. This is where you'll find updated information about ClassWize. Next, we have Support. This is going to give you information about who to contact internally to get support with ClassWize. Then we have our Help section. This is a great place for you to go to get any help with ClassWize. Using the search bar, you can find articles that contain the information that you need in order to be successful with ClassWize features and tools. A great article to get you started on ClassWize is the ClassWize Quick Guide. It is a PDF with screenshots and labels that really takes you through the dashboard that we talked about today. It's a great resource to have on hand when you begin your journey with ClassWize. Our Send Feedback button is where we want to hear from you, and you know better than anyone that feedback helps us move forward. And then our Sign Out button is at the very top right. So that is a look at ClassWize, your classroom management tool, and all of the cool features and actions that you can use with your students to facilitate and manage the classroom environment, and to help you deliver your curriculum efficiently and effectively. Here are a few best practices that we have heard from other teachers when implementing ClassWize. The first is to practice. Go in and use ClassWize a few times before going live with students to really feel comfortable with its functionality. The second, include ClassWize as part of your daily prep. For example, ensure your rules are set up accordingly and you have your focus sessions listed and ready to go. And lastly, use help resources, whether it is the help section within ClassWize or you're reaching out to your instructional tech coaches or colleagues in your district. So that is a look at ClassWize, your classroom management tool, and all of the cool features and actions that you can use with your students to facilitate and manage the classroom environment, and to help you deliver your curriculum efficiently and effectively. The very last thing to remember, super important, ClassWize is not designed for educators to sit behind their devices at their desks or stations. It's designed to give you the freedom to move around the room and engage with your students' learning, as it sits off to the side or on a device in hand, being your co-teacher, to set those focus sessions, take actions, or simply check in on a student's online journey to help keep them on track. ClassWize is a fantastic tool to support you in keeping your students focused on learning and safe online. Thank you so much for taking the time today to learn about ClassWize. And from me and everyone here at LineWise by Coria, we really appreciate the work you do each and every day to help your students learn and to keep your students safe online. For more ClassWize resources, visit linewise.com/ClassWize Learning on Demand.